She was soaked, silent, and running from something. He was just a mechanic, a single dad with a pickup and a good heart. He gave her a ride. She gave him the truth. Turns out, she was the daughter of a Senate candidate. And the secret she carried could bring everything down. One storm. One choice. Everything changed. Before we begin, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more stories like this. Let's begin. The storm hit faster than they said it would. By the time I shut the bay doors at the garage, the clouds were already boiling. I stood under the awning, wiping grease from my hands, and watched as the rain started slicing sideways. Somewhere behind me, the old radio crackled out a weather alert I didn't need. I checked my phone anyway. One new message on the app. I'm here. Corner booth. Heather. I jumped in the truck and drove 3 blocks to the barbecue joint, the one with the neon pig that always buzzed in bad weather. That night, it flickered like a warning. She was already inside, sitting with her hands wrapped around a chipped mug of tea. Blonde hair still damp from the rain. Calm. Like she belonged there, even with thunder growling outside. "You must be Adam," she said, standing to greet me. No nerves, no pretense. Just a warm smile that made me forget how tired I was. We talked for nearly an hour. About small things. She worked nights as a nurse. I ran a garage. We both liked old country songs and blueberry pie. She laughed gently, not forced, and I liked the way she paused before answering questions, like she didn't want to lie but wasn't ready to spill everything either. There was something steady about her. Strong, even. But I could see it, the way her fingers lingered near the chain of her necklace, or how her eyes drifted toward the windows when sirens passed. The waitress came back with a check and a warning. "They're calling it a flash flood sale. If you've got to drive, do it soon." Heather glanced outside. I didn't drive. Took the bus from the clinic. I hesitated. "You live nearby?" She hesitated, too. "Sort of." I offered her a ride. She didn't argue. We sat in the truck, waiting out the worst of the storm. It felt quieter in there. Heater humming, rain pelting the roof like applause. She didn't talk much at first, just stared out the windshield like it held a memory. Then, softly, "I wasn't planning on coming back here. But something in me needed to." I nodded. Let her keep going. "My mom's a public figure. County mayor. Maybe soon a senator. I'm not really part of the image she wants anymore." That's when I caught it. The careful way she said it, not angry, just tired. She didn't owe me an explanation, and I didn't press for one. But when she looked at me again, there was something different behind her eyes. You ever feel like the moment you stop pretending, is the moment everything falls apart? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Yeah. I know that feeling." She smiled. Not big. Not bright. But real. 10 minutes later, I dropped her off near a quiet street, just like she asked. She thanked me, said she'd enjoyed the tea more than the barbecue, then disappeared into the rain. But something stuck with me. Not just her kindness. Not just the calm. It was the way she carried something invisible, like a truth too heavy to name yet. And as I drove home, I knew it in my gut. That wasn't the last I'd see of Heather. I didn't expect to hear from her again. Not really. Most first dates are one and done. People vanish. Lose interest. Or just get scared of something good. But Heather didn't vanish. The next evening, I was closing up the garage when I saw someone waiting across the street near the bus stop. Hair pulled back. Same raincoat. Calm as ever. She was looking at my sign, like she wasn't sure if she was supposed to be there. I crossed the road. You stalking me already? She smiled. I had a bad shift. Thought I'd walk a bit. Didn't know I'd end up here. I opened the shop door again. Come in. I've got coffee. Or bad tea. Bad tea sounds honest, she said. Inside, I turned on the old lamp near the window. The garage smelled like rubber and motor oil, probably not what she was used to, but she didn't seem to mind. She walked the space slowly, like she wanted to understand it, not judge it. I poured water into the kettle. Rough day? She leaned against the wall, arms folded. One of those shifts where you feel invisible. You fix people. Patch them up. Send them back out. And no one even remembers your name. Yeah, I said. I know that one. She watched the steam rise. Sometimes I think I'm not really back in town. Just haunting it. There was weight in those words. Not drama, weight. We drank tea in silence for a while. No music, no phones, no pretending. Just the sound of wind against the windows and an engine ticking as it cooled. After a bit, she asked about my son. I told her about Dylan, 10 years old, smarter than me already, obsessed with building Lego spaceships and refusing to eat anything green. You raised him alone? She asked. Yeah. Since he was 4. She nodded. That's brave. I shook my head. It's just what had to be done. Then I asked her about her own family, and she paused, not because she didn't want to answer, but because she was picking the right words. My mother's never really been maternal, she said finally. She prefers voters to children. Image over truth. That told me more than anything else could have. You afraid of her? Heather sipped her tea. I'm afraid of what she's willing to do. And who she's willing to hurt. I didn't ask more. I didn't need to. When she stood to leave, I walked her to the door. Rain had stopped, but the air was thick. She looked up at the sky like she was measuring how long she had left before the next storm. She turned to me and said, "Thanks for letting me sit still." "Anytime," I said. She left. Just like that. No drama, no promises. But that night, I stayed up long after I should have slept, staring at the empty mug she'd used. Something wasn't right. Not with her. Not with the way she talked about her mother. Not with the way she kept glancing over her shoulder when she thought I wasn't looking. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever she was running from, had already followed her home. 2 days went by. No texts. No visits. I figured maybe Heather had changed her mind. Maybe she decided this town, or me, wasn't worth the weight she was carrying. Then, just before closing time on Thursday, she walked back in. Same coat. Same soft smile. But her eyes, something was different. Not panic. Not fear. Focus. I shouldn't stay long, she said, stepping inside. I just needed somewhere to breathe. I shut the garage door behind her. Everything okay? She hesitated. Then handed me her phone. The screen showed a message. No name. No number. Just 5 words. You shouldn't have come back. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her. Who sent this? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know. Burner number. Disappeared right after. Your mother? Maybe. Or someone working for her. She sat on the edge of the workbench, quiet, like she'd been here 100 times before. When I left the first time, she told me if I ever came back, she'd make me regret it. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You think she's bluffing? Heather smiled, a sad, knowing kind of smile. She never bluffs. She just lets people underestimate her. The rain started again. Not heavy, just enough to tap the metal roof like a warning. I should go, she said. Didn't mean to bring this here. You didn't bring anything, I said. You just came back to a town that never dealt with its mess. She looked up at me for a long moment. Why are you being so decent? That question hung in the air. Because I've been where you are, I said. And I know what it's like to feel like no one's going to believe your side of the story. She didn't respond. Just looked down at her hands, thumb tracing circles on the edge of her phone. Then, as she stood to leave, something fell from her coat pocket. A notebook. Thin. Black cover. Handwritten. I bent down to grab it. She froze. Don't, she said quickly, but gently. Sorry. That's private. I handed it back without looking. She clutched it like it was made of glass. What is it? I asked. Heather hesitated. Then answered. A book, she said. Or maybe a confession. Depends on who reads it. She took a deep breath. I've been writing about what happened. What she covered up. What she threatened me over. I don't know if anyone will ever read it. But I need to get it out. Somewhere. The notebook disappeared back into her coat. She gave a small nod, as if answering a question I hadn't asked, then opened the door and stepped into the rain. I stood there a long while after she left. Listening. Not to the rain. Not to the old radio humming static. To the silence she left behind. And somewhere in that silence, I made a decision. Whatever this was, I wasn't walking away from it. Not now. The story hit the Sunday paper before dawn. It wasn't front page, not yet, but there it was. Local mayor launches Senate bid, family absent from announcement. Her name wasn't even mentioned directly. Just a vague sentence buried at the bottom. No comment on the mayor's estranged daughter, who returned to town last month. I read it twice. Then 3 more times. Estranged daughter. Like she was a stain. Like she didn't have a name. I folded the paper and stared out the window of my kitchen. Coffee gone cold. Sunlight barely breaking through gray clouds. My son, Dylan, still asleep down the hall. By noon, she was at my door. Heather stood on the porch, hands in her coat pockets, eyes tired. You saw it? She asked. Yeah. She stepped inside without waiting to be invited, not because she was rude. Because she already knew she was welcome. I didn't expect anything else, she said. That's how she operates. Rewrite the story before anyone else can tell it. I poured fresh coffee and handed her a cup. You okay? She nodded. Mostly. We sat in silence a while. She glanced around the room, taking in the little things, Dylan's soccer cleats by the door, the faded photo on the fridge, the dog-eared stack of bills I hadn't gotten to yet. Feels like a real house, she said softly. I gave a quiet laugh. It's mostly held together by duct tape and stubbornness. That's what makes it real. Then, after a long pause, she said, I want to tell you the truth, Adam. The whole truth. Because you're already in this. And I think you deserve to know what it is you're standing beside. I didn't move. I just let her speak. When I was 17, I tried to report something that happened. To me. Something bad. Something that would have shattered her public image. Her voice didn't break. It didn't tremble. But her hands gripped the mug tighter. She didn't deny it. She didn't even argue. She just covered it up. Told me I was confused. Said if I ever went public, she'd have me declared unstable. That no one would believe me over her. I said nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew this was the part where most people said the wrong thing. Heather went on. I left town. Changed my name. Took a job across the state. Stayed quiet for years. But I couldn't stop thinking about how easy it was for her. How no one even questioned her version. She looked up at me then. And there was something raw and open in her eyes. So I came back. Not to fight. Not even for justice. I came back to remember who I used to be. I nodded. Slowly. And now? Now, she said, I think it's time I stop being silent. I leaned back in my chair. You think she's going to let that happen quietly? No, Heather said. I think the storm's just getting started. And the way she said it? I believed her. I noticed it the next morning. Heather had left early, saying she needed to stop by the library, one of the few places she could write in peace. I walked out to the truck like I always do, coffee in hand, toolbox in the other. Then I saw the scratch under the rear wheel well. Thin. Fresh. Not there yesterday. I crouched down. There, tucked just above the axle, was a device. Small. Black. Blinking red. A GPS tracker. My stomach sank. I yanked it free, held it in my palm. Cold metal. Plastic casing. No markings. Heather didn't put this here. Someone else had. I didn't call her. Didn't text. Just waited. When she came back that afternoon, she brought pastries. Peace offering, she smiled. For taking over your kitchen table yesterday. I showed her the tracker. The smile vanished. She sat down slowly. That's not surprising. Think it was your mom? Not directly. She doesn't get her hands dirty. But she's got people. Security? Heather laughed softly. More like loyalists. Old campaign guys. One of them used to work private intel. The kind who call in favors, not favors from the law. I placed the tracker on the table between us. They're watching you. She met my eyes. They've always been watching. Even when I ran, they knew where I was. They just didn't act until I came home. I leaned forward. Heather, this isn't just politics anymore. This is threat-level stuff. You need help. I'm trying to get it. I've reached out to a journalist I trust, someone from before. She's agreed to meet me. Off the record. Where? Columbus. End of the week. I didn't like it. Too far. Too exposed. But I nodded. Then we'll get you there. She blinked. We? I shrugged. You think I'm letting you go alone? Heather didn't say anything. Just looked down at the tracker. I used to think if I stayed quiet, I'd stay safe, she said. But silence hasn't kept them away. It's just made me easier to erase. Then, with surprising calm, she pushed the tracker back toward me. Let's use it. I raised an eyebrow. Use it how? Feed them the story they want. Make them think I'm running scared. Let them watch me head one direction, while I go another. I smiled. You're good at this. I had to be. That night, I drove to the next town over and left the tracker under a parked car in a hospital lot. Let them chase a ghost. Because now? We were done playing defense. I hadn't seen Luke Garrison in 10 years. Last time, we were 23, sneaking beers after graduation and swearing we'd never end up like our dads, bitter, broke, and stuck in town. Luke became a deputy. I opened a garage. Life didn't exactly go according to plan. He came by the shop that morning, slow roll in a county cruiser, mirrored sunglasses, too casual. You Adam? He asked, even though he knew damn well I was. Still am, I said, wiping grease off my hands. He stepped out of the car. Leaned on the hood like it was a casual drop-by. Heard Heather Monroe's back in town, he said. I didn't answer. She doing okay? He asked. Lot of folks surprised to see her again. I folded my arms. Is this official, deputy? He chuckled. Not yet. Just friendly conversation. But there was nothing friendly about his tone. She around? He asked. Mayor's office mentioned she might be in town. Would love to check in. She's not here, I lied. Took a job out of town. Just passed through. Luke stared at me. Quiet. Then, you always were a terrible liar. I held his gaze. You always were the kind of guy who liked being on the winning team. He smirked, then stepped back into his cruiser. Tell her one thing for me, he said before closing the door. She should know that favors get expensive. He drove off slow. Too slow. Back inside, Heather was pacing. He knows, I said. She nodded. He's always been her shadow. Loyal to a fault. Helped her bury everything the first time. And now? If he's showing up in daylight, it means they're nervous. I opened a drawer, pulled out the backup flash drive. Then we keep moving. Heather looked at me, serious. Once I hand this off to the reporter in Columbus, there's no turning back. You sure? I'm sure of this, she said. If I disappear again, I want the truth to survive me. I nodded once. Then we leave tonight. We packed light, burner phones, the drive, cash. I left a note for Dylan with his grandma. Back soon. Promise. Just after sundown, we hit the highway. The sky was clear, but the air buzzed with tension. And somewhere, behind us, I knew Luke Garrison was watching. Waiting. But this time? So were we. We met the reporter in the back of an old diner off Route 62. No name badge. No camera. Just a woman in a windbreaker with tired eyes and a recorder in her pocket. Her name was Maren Keller. Freelance. Used to write for a major paper before she got blacklisted for publishing something too real. My kind of journalist. Heather sat across from her, calm as ever, clutching the notebook like it was an oxygen mask. You can record, she said. Just don't publish until I give the word. Maren nodded and slid the recorder across the table. Start whenever you're ready. Heather began slowly, her voice steady, like she'd rehearsed this in her mind 1,000 times. The threats. The cover-up. The night everything changed. How the police report disappeared. How her mother, the mayor, made the whole thing vanish in under 24 hours. Then she handed over the drive. Encrypted documents, she said. Emails. Proof of hush payments. A scanned signature from the day they closed the case, signed by Deputy Luke Garrison himself. Maren's eyes narrowed. You're not just accusing a local official. You're detonating a career. Heather leaned in. I'm not accusing. I'm exposing. I kept watch from the booth. No sign of tails. But I had that feeling again, the one just before lightning hits. Something was too easy. After an hour, we walked out the back, avoiding the parking lot. We'd just turned the corner when Heather's phone buzzed. She froze. What is it? I asked. She turned the screen toward me. Nice try. We're already ahead of you. No number. No contact name. Just that. Then a photo loaded. Grainy. Taken from above. It was us, leaving the diner. I grabbed the phone. Location was off. Airplane mode was on. But they still found us. They tapped your phone, I said. Not just GPS. They're watching your screen. Heather's face was pale. That's not just her people. That's agency-level surveillance. We've got to move. Now. We took the long way out of town, no phones, no cards, just backroads and instinct. We stopped that night at a forgotten motel with peeling paint and a broken ice machine. She sat on the bed, silent, staring at the wall. "They're not going to stop," she said. "Even if we publish it. They'll spin it. Call me unstable. Say I forged it all." I sat beside her. "Then we make them panic. We leak a decoy. Let them scramble while the real truth travels quietly." She looked at me. "You really believe we can win this?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "I believe they're not ready for someone who stopped being afraid. The trick to making a fire bigger is simple. You feed it something flammable, and make sure they don't know where the real match is." We spent the night in that dusty motel room, no lights, curtains closed. I pulled out the backup laptop my brother rigged years ago, air-gapped, clean, never touched Wi-Fi until that moment. Heather sat across from me, typing quietly. The plan? Leak a fake. Something close enough to the truth to scare them, but not enough to expose everything. "I'll make it look like the documents already went public," she said. "That the full report is being uploaded piece by piece." "You sure they'll bite?" "Oh, they'll bite," she said, eyes sharp. "Because they can't risk letting people read even half of this." I created 3 burner accounts. Uploaded redacted versions of a few documents. Posted them on low-traffic whistleblower forums. Left digital fingerprints on purpose. Let them trace it. By dawn, we had our answer. The mayor's campaign issued a sudden press release about foreign cyber attacks. Heather's old hospital got a visit from a state health inspector. And a fire mysteriously broke out at the record storage facility near City Hall. They were scrambling. Heather watched the news feed on mute, sipping motel coffee. "They think this is it," she said. "They think the worst is already out. But the real file? Still safe," she said, tapping her coat pocket. We packed our things and left. Switched cars. Paid cash. No phones. By the time we hit the edge of town, I could feel it in my bones, the quiet before something big. Heather looked over at me in the passenger seat. "If anything happens to me, Adam." "Nope," I cut in. "We're not starting that sentence." She gave a small, crooked smile. "Just saying. I trust you." I didn't say anything, but I reached over and squeezed her hand. It wasn't a romantic moment. Not yet. But it was real. And in a world full of lies, that counted for something. We made it to the safe house in Yuma just before sundown. It was a rundown building behind an old radio station, long abandoned, but wired up tight. One of my brother's old contacts ran the place now. Ex-military. Quiet type. Trusted. The plan was simple: go live. Heather's story, in her voice, with documents scrolling behind her. No edits. No filters. Just truth, out in the open. Inside, the air was stale, but the gear was solid. She checked the mic twice, straightened her collar, and sat in front of the camera. "You sure about this?" I asked. Heather nodded. Calm. Steady. "I've been silent too long," she said. "Time to stop asking permission." We counted down. 5. 4. 3. The red light blinked on. "My name is Heather Monroe," she began, "and this is what my mother doesn't want you to hear." She spoke clearly, each word cutting through the static like a knife. She told them everything: the buried assault case, the threats, the falsified documents, the men who helped her mother cover it all. She showed the signatures, the payment records, the encrypted drives. Behind her, the files scrolled, proof in black and white. I stood by the door, watching the monitor and the road at the same time. Then I saw it. A black SUV turned the corner. Then another. And a third. "Time's up," I said. Heather didn't flinch. She kept talking, louder now, even as the engines roared outside. I locked the main door, grabbed the crowbar, and checked my sidearm. Only 6 rounds. I'd make them count. She wrapped up the broadcast with one final line. "If I disappear after this, let it be known, it wasn't silence. It was sabotage." The red light blinked off. She stood, breathing heavy, eyes on fire. Then we heard the first boot hit the gravel outside. I turned to her. "Stay behind me." 3 men came in through the side door, but they didn't expect resistance. The first one went down hard from the crowbar. The second, I shot in the leg. The third ran. Outside, sirens. Real ones this time. An FBI van pulled up fast, tires screeching. A woman in a Navy windbreaker jumped out. "Federal Agent Boone. We've been monitoring the feed. You're safe now." Heather blinked. "You're late." The agent gave a half smile. "Not too late." I lowered the gun. Heather looked at me. "It's done." "No," I said. "It's just beginning." 1 week later, Heather's face was on every screen in the country. Not polished. Not staged. Just the clip of her broadcast, going viral minute by minute. People called her brave. Some called her reckless. But no one was ignoring her anymore. Her mother's campaign collapsed in 2 days. A formal investigation opened on 3 city officials. Luke Garrison turned in his badge the morning after the leak and quietly disappeared. Heather refused witness protection. "I've been hidden long enough," she told Agent Boone. "I'm not running anymore." I kept my distance at first. Figured she needed space. Healing. But 3 days after the storm, she showed up at the garage, same quiet confidence, but something lighter in her now. "I've been offered a nonprofit grant," she said. "To help women in politics come forward safely. Real legal aid. Anonymous channels. No cover-ups." "That's big," I said. She smiled. "Yeah. But I need someone who can help run the back end, logistics, security, maybe change a tire when things get bumpy." I raised an eyebrow. "You offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a place," she said. That night, we sat on the back porch of my house, watching the clouds break open into stars. Dylan was asleep inside, sprawled across the couch in a tangle of blankets and popcorn crumbs. Heather leaned into my shoulder like she'd always belonged there. "I still feel like it's not over," she said. "It probably isn't," I replied. "Truth doesn't solve everything. It just clears the fog." She was quiet a moment. Then, "You saved me, you know." "No," I said. "You did that yourself. I just handed you the wrench." She laughed, a real one this time. The kind that had air in it. Life. As the crickets took over the silence and the world finally stopped spinning, I thought about how it started. Just one blind date. One storm. One moment in a truck with a woman who looked calm but carried more weight than anyone should. And how somehow, through all of it, the fear, the surveillance, the chase, we'd built something that didn't break. Something true. Rain can flood a road. Ruin a crop. Knock out the lights. But sometimes, when it's done, it clears the air. Sometimes, it lets things grow. You made it to the end, thank you. If this story left a mark, click like, drop a comment, and make sure you're subscribed. There's more where this came from.